Hello, and welcome to Of All the Places podcast. This is episode 2. My name is John Wick, and across the table from me is...
Katie.
And over my right shoulder is the beefcake, Ben Morris. Always got to give you some love, my friend.
Isn't this episode 1.2?
What did I say?
2? I mean,
1.
it's like...
2.
But you told me the last episode was 1.1.
Yeah, me and numbers don't get along real good.
We'll do 1.2.
1.2.
Because it's like season 1, episode 1. Season 1, episode 2. So
Again, I see the system now.
We just made it up. So that we can be consistent with episode 1, which came out. We already had a full episode go.
I know. I'm actually extra excited about this one because if people are listening to this one, it means they made it through the first one.
That's great. That's
Right?
a great way to think of it.
So there's no sophomore slump because who's our guest today?
Our guest is the infamous and illustrious John Wick.
Don't stop. Keep.
I don't know any more descriptive words. That's all I got in my chamber. But we're gonna chat to our hostess with the mostest.
I'll take that title.
John Wick.
New business card.
You know, we're going round 2 of get to know us, your hosts.
Yeah, well, we kind of had this plan of doing our first podcast as like a contextual podcast between you and me.
Yeah.
And then you started speaking and didn't stop.
Happens, yeah.
So we were going to end up splitting these in 2, just kind of like going with the flow. And I'm actually really glad we did that because that was a good story. Everyone should go and listen to that because Katie's a badass.
Well, I have so many questions for you.
I actually couldn't sleep that night. Because I don't feel like I asked the 3,000 questions that I still have for you. So my hope is that it leaks all over the rest of our episodes, and that's how we get to know you better.
I mean, don't worry. I love to talk about myself,
Just
I'm sure
leak
that's
all
going to
over.
happen. But I have so many questions for you today.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of stuff I still don't know about you, or you told me and I don't remember, and I'm so sorry. But this time I'm a lot more engaged. I'm not also trying to like work.
Or impress me at work.
Yeah, or like, you're my new boss and I haven't had an actual job in 3 years.
And you didn't realize like how we do things.
Yeah,
so.
well, and then I was like, well, no need to be worried about this. But
Well, let's get into it, eh?
let's get into it.
All right.
Of all the places, of all the places, of all the places, why here?
John, are you ready for this?
I don't know, but let's give it a try.
Well, I'm ready.
So this is funny because I was just talking to somebody about this podcast. Like they were amped up to listen to it, and I was like, "Now just cool it. We still don't know what we're doing."
I mean, but we kind of do.
Yeah.
I have all the confidence in the world, but that's just my delusion.
See, there you go. Now you're leaking. I'll take it.
Everybody needs some healthy delusion in their life.
Of course.
It's way better this way.
Yeah. I mean,
I have so many questions,
Okay.
and I feel like we just need to dive right in.
let's do this.
Here are the things that I know about you. I know you're from Wisconsin,
Yep.
born and raised.
Born and raised Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
Where is Manitowoc?
So Manitowoc is right on Lake Michigan. It's about 20 minutes southeast of Green Bay. So Green Bay is like right over the hill. I literally tell people Lambeau Field is in Anaconda, which is kind of crazy to think about. But beautiful, beautiful little town on the like cool marina. About the same size as Butte. So
Lots of cheese curds.
cheese curds and cheese heads, cheese.
And spotted cow.
Spotted cow is all over the place.
I know about spotted cow.
Yes, you
This
should.
is like I'm brushed up in my Wisconsin
And they're not even a sponsor.
stuff. They're not. They should be.
Yeah, I'll
Spotted
make
cow.
some emails.
So you grew up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Manitowoc's claim to fame is Stephen Avery on the murder show, the Netflix murder show, Making a Murderer.
Oh, have not seen it.
Oh, well, you're fine. It was actually a good show, but it's like, 3 miles from where I grew up.
I'll never
outside
sleep
of town.
again if I start watching that kind of stuff. So that's just a no from me, dog.
Cool.
In the words of Randy Jackson.
That's a hard pass.
Yeah,
Okay.
not doing it. Not doing it. So grew up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You did sports.
I was a sporty.
Sports ball.
Yeah. 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 My whole family was, right?
Okay.
I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. So oldest brother, like, he crushed it. He was probably the best athlete out of all of us. He ended up playing baseball at Iowa, which is kind of a big deal. And then James, my middle brother, like I had him, the middle child. He played some football at Carroll College, which was actually the Wisconsin Carroll College, not the one out here.
Oh.
And then my body fell apart before I got to college, so I never quite got there. But I was recruited by I had a pretty good career. That was one thing I was good at in high school.
That's pretty cool.
Sporty.
Sports ball. Mm-hmm. And you went to school in...
So I got recruited by Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
And that's what tipped me off. Because once I decided not to play football in college, I had an ACL tear, so I had a full knee replacement, and my shoulders were bad. They're still bad. Falling apart at the seams.
Yeah, aren't we all?
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, they recruited me to play football there, and that's why I was like, wait a minute, there's a school that's not the University of Iowa, and it was an education school, and so that's what I wanted to end up to do with my career, is be a teacher.
Did you always want to be a teacher? Like when you started thinking seriously about jobs?
It was a supernatural progression for me. So 2 days after I graduated high school, I went to Connecticut for a summer camp, worked a summer camp out there. And James, my brother, was already out there working. So I literally, I bailed. And the summer camp thing was super fun. I really enjoyed, I would do basketball camps growing up and teach at the Y and all that sort of stuff. It was just fun. And hanging out with kids was fun. And then seeing them grow and the light bulbs come on and you're like, whoa, I totally helped this kid learn about the world. Super, super meaningful. So it was a natural progression for me to just look at that as a profession, to do that forever.
Did you have any other job ideas what you wanted to be before that? Did you think you were going to be something else and then that light bulb happened?
No, I really didn't.
What did you want to be when you were 5 years old? What was your dream job at 5 years old?
You know what? I don't really, I'm sure it was something like a football player or some sort of sporty spice situation.
Yeah.
Just because I was just a boy in a sports family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really remember dreaming long term. I knew I wanted to be I looked up to my brothers, super role models my whole childhood. So I just wanted to be a Manitowoc Ship. I just wanted to run on the football field, with the red jersey that my brother.
The mascot is the Ships?
Yeah, we're the Ships. We're the ship builders.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the history of the town is the shipbuilding industry. Right. So it's kind of like ore diggers out here, where it's the mining history out here. Manitowoc would build, I think we're most famous for building submarines for the World Wars. And so our mascot, I think our school just turned 100 years old. Our original mascot was the shipbuilders. That's what the town was built on.
Did you have a man in a mascot suit?
We actually did. So we were Lincoln High School. So we had Abe Lincoln.
Oh.
But, when you're a 17-year-old boy, you put a sailor's hat on and you call yourself a seaman.
Oh, yeah. No, we were the Laurel locomotives.
Okay.
The trainmen.
The trainmen?
I don't know, because there's trains there.
Yeah.
So it's the same. Anytime there's a mascot that's not an animal or something you can effectively dress up as, I'm always really curious because it's weird. And it's not that common.
No. I love unique mascots.
Yeah.
The Charlie Ordigger for Montana Tech is that's a cool mascot.
It's so cool.
He's the scariest dude ever. No lie, but it's super original. And it kind of helps tell the story of this place, which I think is pretty cool.
So you just wanted to be a
shipbuilder.
A shipbuilder.
Yeah, when I was a little guy, I was just a pudgy little kid running around. And I just looked up to my brother. So when I got the chance to play football, I was like, I'm going to be a ship, and I can't wait for that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's really...
But then when that ended, God, I had nothing.
Okay, so you went to Northern Iowa.
Went to Northern Iowa, yeah.
To become a teacher.
Yeah.
You did all your school there.
All my undergrad at Northern Iowa. I got my BS in elementary education. So I took, I think I did a victory lap or two because I enjoyed college, as one should.
It's fun.
As one should. And so I think I took 5.5 years. But then the coolest part about that was there was a program to student teach that would send you basically anywhere you wanted to go. So I was kind of flying solo. Northern Iowa was kind of my thing, and I just wanted to keep finding the world and seeing the world and finding myself in the world. So I tried to find the farthest place on the map that still took the American dollar. So I ended up in Nikiski, Alaska to do my student teaching, which was super cool.
So how long were you in Alaska for?
So I remember I think I left Iowa. I drove up there, I think on like Christmas Day or something like that, like the darkest of the dark times. So I went and I jumped on the Alaska Marine Ferry. They have like a Marine Ferry highway system in Bellingham, Washington. So it's a car ferry system. So I jumped on that and just like shipped everything up.
They boat you
Totally.
to Alaska from Bellingham.
Yeah, it was wild. And
How
it's
long
in
does
through
that
the inside
take?
passage. It's like 3 or 4 days.
On a boat.
And you just sleep on like the deck of the boat if it's nice. So that was cold. So I was sleeping in like the movie room on the floor. It was super cool. But like the inside passage and snow on the mountains, like,
That's like a cheap way to get an Alaskan cruise.
Exactly.
Oh, that's genius.
But you have to sleep on the floor.
You know what? You were
it in-
young. I'm not that young. I could still do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was super cool. It was a super cool experience. And it was one of my first like real. So when I went from Wisconsin to Iowa, that was a kind of a funky culture change that I didn't see happening because Iowa was a lot more rural and the people that went to UNI were from more rural places and that I wasn't quite used to. So that was like my first taste into like, this is a new culture. I need to like figure it out and respect it and like roll with it. And then going to Alaska, totally different ballpark, right? I was teaching in a 4-5 grade split classroom, and about a third of my class was white, a third was Native Alaskan, and a third was Native American.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was super cool, and it was 2 different grade levels as well. So it was a challenge. And I arrived there, and like it was just dark all the time. But I'd still be up there if I had a decent job offer after teaching.
Does it feel like really, once you're up there though, do you feel really far and like you can't get home easily?
Well, yeah. Totally.
But you don't care.
Alaska's far away.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's no way around that. The one thing, I wasn't in Anchorage. So Anchorage is a big city. It's 500,000 or something like that. So it's got everything that you need. It's also got big city problems. But I was south of there. It was about a 2-hour drive around one of the Turnagain Arms, I believe it was. God, that was a long time ago already. So I was away from the city, and I was literally at the end of the road system. I took a right-hand turn to the accommodation that I found, and there was a gate at the end of the road. Like there's no more road after this. That's a thing that happens in Alaska.
Were you like living in a cabin?
No, I actually found it was a teacher at the school. Her mom was fixing up a lake house for a B&B sort of situation. So I crashed in the basement.
Well, that does not sound
It
terrible.
was perfect. I just like
Alaskan
made sure I
lake
had
house?
snowshoes and a headlamp, and I just did all the things I could.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. But I didn't get a job up there. I got job offers from like Point Barrow, which is like the tippy top of Alaska, and Gamble Island, which is the island that's the one where you can see Russia, right? And
Thanks.
I had a
Sarah
husky
Palin.
at the time. My first husky, Nolly, was with me or would have been with me. She stayed in Missoula with a friend. And I was just basically like, if I can't go outside and play with my dog, that's not really the lifestyle that I want.
Yeah.
So thanks, but the next best place is Montana.
Okay, so you're in Alaska, you're student teaching. You don't want to work there because your job offers are not in places where you can play with your dog
Right.
and live your life.
Mm-hmm.
So then you just start applying for jobs in the
Yeah.
other states?
Well, I
just
found-
Montana? Like, had you ever been here before?
I drove through. It was great. No, my dog Nolly stayed with my friend Scott in Missoula. He was going to Missoula at the time. And so he watched her while I was up in Alaska because I knew there was kind of a finite period, and he was super cool with that.
Yeah.
God, Nolly, she would get lost on the M all the time. I'm sorry, Scott, if you listen to this. Apologies. But so when I was thinking about where to go, I loved the mountains. I kind of fell in love with mountains in Alaska, and Western Montana was like the next closest thing. And I knew Scott. So I basically started sending my resume, any job opening in the western half of the state. So I ended up driving home I stayed a few days in Missoula with Scott. And then on my way back, I left Missoula and I got a phone call from the Phillipsburg School District wanting to interview me. And it was so wild because I was like, actually, I'm driving by Peaburg right now. I can take a right off this interstate and be there in like 20 minutes. Is that cool? And they were like, absolutely. So I remember, I think I had a suit on because I did some job interviewing in Alaska. So I put my suit on like in their elementary school bathroom and like showed up to the interview.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere, and it went really well. They're super cool people. They're still some of my best friends. And I just remember that they took me into the classroom that I would have been teaching in, that I did end up teaching in. And right from where the teacher's desk was, out the window was Discovery Basin, like the backside of Disco. And I was like, if there's a ski hill right there, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So somewhere in South Dakota, they called me and offered me the job. And absolutely.
What grade?
It was originally a second grade / fifth grade, like second in the morning, fifth in the afternoon. Because of the enrollment was kind of funky. And then it would eventually, that was for the first year, eventually it'd be a fifth grade position. Okay. Totally. So I stayed there for 4 years.
4 years.
Doing that.
What was your favorite like subject to teach? Because I know like one of my best friends is a teacher and she teaches fifth grade right now.
Cool.
And you're kind of teaching a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. What's like your favorite? What's the subject you're most passionate about?
I was a gen ed teacher, so I totally get you teach everything to everybody all the time. I loved science.
Wow.
I just loved science. I loved blowing things up. I loved like having kids discover things and learn new things. And we had this thing. One of my best memories is if we covered what we needed to for the week, we would have crazy science Fridays. And like the afternoon, no plans. I would just make something cool. I remember we were teaching like, I don't know if it was like cells or something, but we went out onto the playground and we like formed these cells in the playground. Then I went to the top of like the slide and took a picture of them so they could see themselves in the cell. We did the American Revolution for social, so it was crazy social studies Friday.
Oh yeah.
And we played football, but one team was America, the Americans, one team was not, and like we had to Gettysburg Address, like Americans win, like this. Then they threw a touchdown pass. So yeah, I don't know. It was fun. We had some
love
fun.
that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I think I would have, especially science. I love social studies, but I feel like I would have loved science so much more if I would have had somebody who was like into it.
Oh yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's discovering the world, right? When you're a teacher, you just want to like share the world with people and help them like figure out their place in the world. And that's one of the easiest way, like most fun way to like figure it all out.
Yeah. So why did you leave teaching?
Oof, that's $1 million question.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm asking.
We got some time.
We got some time. And I still want to talk about your summer camp.
Summer camps.
So I have too many questions.
So the reason why I guess where I can start by when I ended up leaving, halfway through my time in Peaburg, I met Cass up at Georgetown Lake. I had a squat at a cabin up there, so I was cabin sitting at Georgetown Lake. There was some backdoor deals being done with Cass's mom, and we'll have a special guest appearance for her. But
Cass bonus app.
Yeah, so for 2 years of my 4 years there, Cass and I were dating, and we kind of met in Anaconda for date nights and stuff. And at that point, we were like, all right, this is cool, but like, how long do we want to do this? And I was also kind of feeling, it wasn't like a burnout, but it was kind of like, this system feels weird. Like it doesn't quite jive with, I don't know, my ideology. Like I had some like moral conundrums with what I was supposed to be teaching kids. Things like, Christopher Columbus is like the savior of the Americas and stuff like that, which like I had to teach it because that was the curriculum at the time. But it just didn't. It kind of felt yucky.
Yeah. And
that's just one kind of weird example. And so the education system is kind of where I started to get a little like, do I want to be a part of this? I'm not totally sure. So I was just kind of like, ugh, on the whole deal. I feel like I was a good teacher. I feel like I did really well. and I loved teaching. Like I loved the teaching part of it. So every day when I could close my door and just teach, that was my jam.
Yeah.
But teaching, if anybody knows that, that's not what you do. You're a security guard. You're the recess person. I served the lunches so that I could get free lunch because I had $55 in my bank account every month after I paid all my bills, right? So, you're just like, it's not easy.
No.
Teaching is literally one of the hardest jobs on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
And so shout out to all the teachers and nothing but respect there. I'm just not strong enough to do it anymore.
No, it's a lot.
So that's why it's $1 million question, because it's complicated and there's a lot of layers of like, oh boy, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And you can be a great teacher and you can know how to teach really well, but it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes total sense.
So then our dumbasses, Cass and I, are like, all right, I qualified for a sabbatical because I was there long enough. It's like, cool, I'll take a year off. Maybe it'll recharge my batteries. Maybe I'll get a job as a baker at Great Harvest. I don't know. And she was like, well, I'm not crazy into my job. Should we just travel? I'm like, heck yeah. So that's how we ended up in South Korea.
Right.
We took that year off and we got a job teaching English outside of Seoul, Korea. So that was super cool.
Okay. So now we're in Korea.
Boom, Korea phase.
Now we're in Korea.
Of All the Places podcast is brought to you by 5518 Designs at 27 North Main Street in Uptown Butte, America. Katie, what are you wearing right now?
5518 Designs.
Of course you are, because it's the greatest store in Uptown Butte.
Yep.
With the comfiest hoodies.
The best hoodies.
They're made out of clouds.
I'm not joking. We sell those as our merch,
Oh, yeah.
And we get so many compliments that they're the softest hoodies they've ever felt.
But they're also designed and printed, produced locally, and all of that fun stuff as well.
And they say it in the tag.
They also say something fun about sumo wrestling, right?
Yep. Not suitable for sumo wrestling.
Not suitable. So it's not a uniform.
No.
Just in the next time you're out sumo wrestling on the town.
Make sure to take off your shirt.
So thank you to 5518 Designs, 27 North Main Street, and find them online at shop5518.com.
Hey, John. Can I tell you what's going on at the Covalite Theater?
The Covalite Theater in Uptown Butte, America?
The Covalite Theater in Uptown Butte, America. Butte, America's home for live music these days. We're loving it. We're vibing. They've got open mic every Tuesdays. It's like the cutest, funnest thing ever. I've been.
We really needed the Covalite.
We super needed the
It's
Covalite.
a huge need for entertainment. It's an excellent venue, and I just love all of the stuff they got going on.
Me too. Coming up on January 13th, there's a night of Patsy Cline with Julia Angelo.
Wow.
That sounds lovely.
Count me in.
And then our good friend, Madeline Hawthorne, will be coming on January 18th. And Butte local and future podcast guest, Christy Hayes, is going to be opening that show.
Teaser.
Can't wait. And then Marley in the Pocket is this really fun, funky band from Helena. They're coming down on January 20th. It's like a stacked month.
Yeah. And see, this is what we need in Uptown Butte. We need the Covalite. We need the lights on. We need to get there and see all these phenomenal talents.
We're fans and you should be too. We'll see you at the Covalite.
Covalite it is. Let's go. Of All the Places podcast is brought to you by Dig City Supply, 43 West Park Street in Uptown Butte.
Dig City Supply is the official online retailer of Montana Tech Athletics and is home to the Butte Icon Collection, supporting other local businesses from day one.
Icons on campus, icons on the streets, icons at Dig City Supply.
Icons everywhere.
Katie, you're an icon.
Wow, thanks. That's so nice. But really, Dig City Supply has the best, coolest Montana Tech gear. We also carry University of Montana and Montana State University, as well as all of the Butte elementary schools, past and present, and Butte High and Butte Central gear. You can get it all.
The area's largest selection of schools and sports gear. How's
Hands
that sound?
down.
Yeah. Cue the fight songs.
I don't know them. I was gonna start humming it, but I couldn't think of a fight song.
Cue the Montana Tech fight song, and thank you for playing.
Shop in-store or online at digcitysupply.com. Roll digs. Okay, so when we left off, you're in Korea
Yeah.
and you're teaching English.
Simultaneously, the greatest job and most challenging job that I've ever had.
How long did you do that for?
We did it for just over a year. So we had a year contract teaching.
Okay.
And that was really different for us because we were in the culture.
Yeah.
We weren't visiting the culture. And that's a big distinction because we were earning their money. We were teaching their children. We were spending their money at their stores. You know, we weren't just visiting and going to the highlights of like all the temples or whatever.
Right.
We're in it. And that was pretty cool. It's a cool experience.
Had you ever traveled like overseas before?
I actually had no interest in Asia at all, any of the Asian cultures until I was over there. It's just so far away.
Yeah.
It's really different. Like it's really different. The languages don't use like letters. They're symbols.
Yeah.
How do you even start to figure that stuff out? Tonal languages. So it was just like, it was all too much. So I actually had no real interest in Asia until I got there, and I was just blown away at how amazing it is. So
Yeah.
it's just like, and Cass and I went together, and I'll never forget the first night we got there. We were traveling for 24, 26 straight hours on a plane. We land in Incheon Airport outside of Seoul. We can't read anything because it all just looks like, it's just like figures.
Yeah.
So we have no idea what's going on. This man is like, we were instructed to find a person with our name at the baggage checkout. So, and he can't speak to us. So we get into this car with this person who can't speak to us. So we're just like trusting this is what we're supposed to do. Our city was about an hour outside of Seoul. So Incheon, the airport, was about, an hour on the other side of Seoul. So we're in this car after this 26-hour flight. We're in this weird car with this stranger who can't speak to us for 2 more hours, and we're dozing off. And like none of the roadside. It was wild. It felt like we were the drugs in a drug deal. I'm not kidding. Because then when we got to the city we lived in was called Yeoju, and we got to it was sold to us as a very rural village because they wanted it to feel like more like Montana. They knew that we were from a rural place. Yeoju had 150, 200,000 people.
Oh my,
very
very rural.
rural. Yeah. I mean, Korea itself is not much bigger than the state of Indiana, and they have like 20 million people or something crazy like that. So it's a real vertical place. And so we pulled into this apartment complex. We had housing already arranged there through the company that we used to get there. And it's the middle of the night. We're super tired. We're just wired. There's this dark parking lot around the back end where our apartment is. There's just one lone like street light in the far corner illuminating this whole thing. And I was just like, this could be the end of the story. Like this could be it. And then my co-teacher walks out of the apartment building, and this is like a 12, 15-story apartment building. Again, don't know him at all, but he had he dressed nice and he could speak English fairly well. Mr. Kim, good guy. And so he kind of walked us into, got our luggage and everything out, and then got us. There's a convenience store down, on the ground floor. Like, there's your breakfast. We'll see you for school in the morning.
Like next day, you're just
the very next day, like hours from landing. Like we'll have somebody pick you up at 7:30 in the morning. Like, whoa, okay.
And you're teaching English all day.
All day. Yeah, we had 2 breaks, I think, throughout the day.
Is it the same students all day?
No. So
Okay,
we were in
just,
elementary school.
Okay.
And so it rotated out hourly.
Okay.
And this was before cell phones were a thing. This was in 2008, 2009.
Oh, yeah.
And the Asian technology is so much better than what we get over here. We didn't have cell phones yet. We ended up with cell phones there. They had Apple Pay on them and everything back then. We had our Subway card. They had our bank card. 20 years ago, they had them all on their phones. It was So, anyways,
Oh my God.
Yeah, go to Asia.
Yeah.
And so we had no idea. We had no idea what each other was doing because we went to different schools. So we were placed in different schools in the same city.
Okay.
And we didn't have a way to get a hold of each other. So we're like emailing each other during lunch break. And like, are you safe? Are you okay? Where are you? What is going on? Like, it was the weirdest thing ever.
Day one, because you literally took a plane the day before.
Day one.
And you're just thrown into it.
Yeah. And like, to be honest with you, like, kids are kids.
Yeah.
No matter where they are in the world. I was lucky that I had a male co-teacher because it's a pretty like hierarchical society. Mm-hmm. So they respect the males more than females. If you're older, then you're respected more. So I had an older male co-teacher for most of the year, and it was great. But then there's the Korean school district, at least the one in Yeoju, they had to rotate. All the teachers had to rotate every couple years. So he had to like leave halfway through my stint, and I didn't have a co-teacher after that. And that's when I was like, oh shit, it was a nightmare, night and day. Yeah. So I went from like, this is super fun. Like Mr. Kim is just like whacking the chalkboard to get everyone's attention. And they'll actually be like super diligent Asian children, right? That you think of. And then like that next semester it was not the case.
They were wild.
So I was like, yeah, maybe we don't renew these contracts.
They were crazy.
Yeah. And Cass had that experience the whole year. I felt bad for her.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, kids are the worst.
Kids are kids.
They're the worst. I mean, when we had substitute teachers, we used to like tell them all the wrong names.
Yeah, and people, and all of the Korean teachers, they would bring their class to our room, and like, goodbye, teacher, and like take off, and I'm like, oh geez, now what am I gonna do? Like, so we learned the like survival phrases of like, don't do that, hajima, and like sit down, and so it's just like, it was wild. It was just wild. But we got to travel Asia a lot. That was super cool. Got to a whole bunch of cultures. There were actually 30 other English native speaking teachers in Yeoju. So we got to meet some amazing people that are still some of our best friends.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. We need to talk about like how you started 5518, which I feel like is kind of going to tie into like you're home from Korea, you're back in Montana, but how did you decide you wanted to go from elementary school teacher to graphic designer, artist, business owner?
Right. It's yeah. This is a winding journey that we're taking. Kind of buckle up. Here we go.
Buckle up.
No, when I was in Korea, I started a blog to basically just tell my mom and my family that I'm still alive. We live like 30 miles from the DMZ, right? Like they were, North Korea is right there. So, my mom was super worried about that. So I'm like, blog is a real easy way to just kind of stay in touch. And then I realized that, thousands of people started reading this blog, which was kind of wild. It was just like documenting what we were doing and the places we were visiting and the people and the experience and all that kind of shenanigans. And so I kept up with it pretty consistently throughout the whole year. And it got this following, but it was fun for me. And in order to make that more interesting for people, I took 1,000 pictures every single day, right? Like dorky picture taking. So yeah, that was just something I enjoyed doing while I was over there and telling those stories of what we were doing. So when we got back here, I kind of was just like not excited to be a teacher anymore. I ended up substituting for a while to figure it out. We ended up back in Butte because Cass had a small house down on the flats. And so this was going to be our home base until we figured out the next step. And so I started subbing and I was just like, oh, Cass, I just don't, not sure what's going on. And she's like, a dummy, because this is Cass, right?
Yeah.
She's like, dummy, you loved writing and you're good at it. You really enjoyed taking all those pictures. You're pretty good at that as well. That's a thing. I remember it like it was yesterday. She's like, that's a thing. Like people do that for a job.
Yeah.
MSU is like a graphic design department. That might be right up your alley. Like go back to school. Like figure this out. You got this. And I was like, I guess I do got this. So at that point, so I was actually looking at going to MSU in their graphic design. I'm like, cool, I can make that drive. That's not a problem. But then somebody tipped me off on the technical communication department up at Montana Tech, and that doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But at that time, it was like 2 or 3 days before the semester started. I found this. I was like, yeah, it kind of is like, how do you tell stories through different mediums and like making complex information simple so that people can understand it. I was like, I kind of think it's like websites and videos and all the different like mediums of communication. And I was like, okay, I think that's a shorter drive. So I called the department, and Chad Okrish, who I consider a mentor, he picked up the phone. He was the department head at the time, and kind of told him the story. And he's like, well, I think we can make this pony run. I'm like, Chad, what does that mean? He's like, if you drop your paperwork off, we could probably get you into class. We can get you enrolled. I'm like, literally. So I was sitting in a class 3 days later.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was exactly what I was looking for, because it really kind of solidified all of the things I was already doing and enjoyed doing. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know I enjoyed doing those things. And looking back, I was doing all these things anyways. So when you're a teacher, you're taking information from a textbook and you're making it like digestible for children. That's technical communication in a nutshell, right? I'm making newsletters for parents. You're making bulletin boards. All of that stuff is just like creative and relevant and educational. So I was already doing all this stuff. And that department kind of just solidified all of the things and gave me like purpose and kind of polished that sort of stuff. So through grad school, I ended up rebranding the Butte 100 mountain bike race. So it's a bike race that goes on here in town. Just because I was like volunteering at the time and
you bike.
What's that?
You bike.
Oh yeah, totally. And that's what drew me to that race was that, I mean, these are my people. Like they love to be outside. I'm into that. Bikers. Yeah.
But of the pedal variety.
Mm-hmm, totally. Yeah. Not the vroom.
Not the vroom variety.
And the owners at the time, he was super burnt out, and something happened in the race where people got lost or something, and I was wrenching down at the Outdoorsman bike shop at the time, fixing bikes, and he came into the shop and he's like, I'm done, totally done with this race. And I was like, wait a minute, Bob. God, I love Bob Wagner. Good for him. But he was just like, he was done. He was burnt. It was like too much. It was a ton of work. Yeah. And so I basically was like trying to solve these problems for him while I was wrenching on this bike. And I'm like, well, where are all the maps that you give all of the bikers? And he's like, well, you don't have any maps. I'm like, okay. Well, like, where are the, can they get to the course somehow? He's like, well, we don't really have directions anywhere. Like, what's your website look like so they can get their information? Like, we don't really have that. We have this forum. I'm like, well, there's a problem. Like, we got to get more information in the hands of the bikers so that these problems that are frustrating you to a point you want to stop the race, that they're minimized as much as possible. So the project that I worked on through grad school was creating a race Bible for the race, which is those two words together, kind of like, off-putting race and Bible, but I couldn't even find any previous research on race Bibles. And all the competitors, if you're a competitive sailor, you know what the race Bible is for that particular race. Yeah. It's just this all-encompassing document of all the information that you need
to do your thing.
Yeah, to do the thing. To do the dang thing. Yeah. So I created one of those. But in order to make this document, I needed maps. So I created the maps. And then I needed elevation profiles. So I created those to put in the book. They needed a logo. So I created the logo to put on the book. I took a bunch of pictures so that I had stuff to put in the book. And so I basically had to do all of those things that I ended up doing as 5518, just as this project. So towards the end of grad school, people knew I was doing all these things. So they started asking me like, oh, I know you can make flyers. Can you just make one of these things for me? Like, yeah, I can totally. So at the end of school, Cass was like, hey, you should probably start charging people for this. You're like a designer now.
Yeah.
So that's how, I went up to the courthouse, and super dumb story. I didn't even know like what a business license was or how to get it. I just went up there thinking I'd give them like a 20 and I'd have a business. And they gave me like this business application. So I was like, well, I don't know what to do with this. Took it home. And I had a GPS, and I can still see it right now. I had a GPS unit like not built into my phone. It was like a separate unit thing. It was next to my desk, and it was still turned on from the bike ride that I took earlier in the day. So I pick up this application. I was like, name, John Wick, business name. And I was like, oh, shit.
That's the worst part.
Didn't even think about what I'm going to call this because I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
So I looked at that GPS, and it was like elevation 5518. And I was like, all right, that's cool. 5518. And I was like, it can't just be 4 random numbers. So I was like, well, I just design stuff. So put designs. I can change it if I need to. And it just stuck.
Never did.
So
don't need to.
Yeah. So the name, it's a terrible name for a business. No one knows what those numbers are, but it turns out that like it's a good point of conversation.
I feel like Montana people at least and outdoorsy people get it because they're used to seeing elevations.
Right.
You know? So I feel like our target market gets it. And it is also a fun story.
Totally.
I mean, there are way worse business names out there.
True.
Way worse.
True.
Well, probably not a fun story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but happy accidents are still happy.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of how we started. Then I just was freelancing, and I just grinded out the next couple years.
Yeah. And then you were like, I want to have clothes on the store.
Yeah.
That's
more or less.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, I actually, so the story there is that I think I created foamy hats as like a thank you.
Oh.
I think it was foamies. As a thank you, I designed up this cool like a 5518 inside of a Montana. We should actually bring it back. Mental note that. It's a sweet little design. And put it on some foamies, and I was just giving them to like clients as a thank you for, believing that I can help you. And I don't even know who it was. Somebody was like, that hat's sweet. Can I buy one from you? I was like, oh, you're going to give me money for this thing? Okay, let's do that. And yeah, so that kind of like subliminally was like, okay, people want to buy the things that I make on stuff. So the gal that I did that hat with, Helen, she has an embroidery shop here in town. She invited me to a pop-up shop during St. Patrick's Day, just with like my foamies and some stickers. And I was just like, I better rip out a t-shirt design. So I literally that morning I ripped out what we now have as the Butte Elevation t-shirt. It's the first ever shirt we ever sold. I ripped it out. Printed 48 shirts as quick as possible. They sold the very first day of the pop-up. All of them.
I didn't know that.
Very first shirt ever. Still one of our best sellers.
Still. I mean, we did our Spotify 5518 Wrapped.
Yeah.
And that was like, I think, number 1 or 2.
Yeah, and it's always been 1 or 2 every single year. So I need to stop thinking so much and just like rip out shirts.
Yeah. Oh my, think way less.
Yeah.
I mean, we should all think less.
Totally.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was it. And so I quick went to the printer, and I was like, Mark, you gotta print out a bunch more, man. And yeah, that was it. So then that kind of lit the fire where, we can leverage this into like, and again, this is Cass's brilliance, where she's like, well, why don't it would be really fun to have like this market, like a farmer's market booth.
Yeah.
And like just see what that's all about and contribute to that cool little event in the summertime. And, we have these dreams of like, we'll just like get some coffee and like hang out on Park Street every Saturday. It's going to be beautiful. And then it was work. And then, so, we had this farmer's market booth all summer long. The picture of our first, you've seen that picture. Our first market booth was so sad. So sad.
Well, it's only sad now because you know what you have now.
Right. But it's great to look at that and be like, oh, we only had 2 shirts and like 3 hats and maybe a magnet and some stuff. Like, that's cool.
How many designs do you have now? Do we like?
Well, boy, I don't even know. Simple Place designs. We've got all those pictures in our changing room.
Yeah.
Of the actual like Simple Place style designs.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our style that we've.
How many are?
I want to say there's like 60 plus.
Yeah.
Just of those.
And then we've got like seasonal.
But there's there's seasonal I'm sure it's well over 500 plus.
Yeah.
And then custom work as well. So
Which
we
is
still
insane.
do custom work. Yeah. So a lot, yeah. And thinking of custom work, I still do design work for clients. Not that much anymore because we have multiple stores now.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's kind of gone to the wayside. Just in order to focus on the things that we can focus on. But, people don't realize that we have 5518 designs. We now have Dig City Supply. We had an outlet store for a little while that we're just closing down. We just made that decision to kind of bring all that back in-house. We also do client work. We sell online. We do custom stuff, custom merchandising.
Yeah. For me.
Yeah, we're busy.
Do you miss doing more of like the custom design work for clients? Is that something you like would ever want to do more of again? Or are you kind of happy to be like, I don't know.
Yes and
done
no.
with that?
I mean, I really enjoy helping others.
Yeah.
And I think that comes through in just like the mission of our stores. But one of the ways that we do that, or we did do that quite a bit, is we help them get their brand, like elevate their brands.
Yeah.
I do really miss that kind of consultation and helping them implement all of those things. But it's like that's a whole nother, that could be a standalone business.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
It's their only job.
And I just don't have the horsepower anymore. So I do miss that. We do still take on smaller, mostly merchandising jobs. Yeah. That like piece of branding, not the whole projects.
Yeah.
But a lot of those, like, I'm really proud of the work we did for other people, and we still see it all over town.
Yeah.
But now we've got an apparel kind of focus.
I mean, it's crazy. Ben and I have been in Bozeman, Missoula, obviously here, Helena, and we see people in 5518 stuff everywhere. Like a lot in Butte, all the time in Butte. Mm-hmm. And so I'm almost immune to it. But we go other places and I'm like, oh my God, that's like they're wearing a Simple Place tee.
Cool?
Like it is so cool. And you've really like made a mark with that stuff, and it's really cool. It's cool to be a part of.
It's super cool because I'll get text messages from people who are like in the San Francisco airport, and they'll see one of our back tags.
Yep.
And they'll be like, I went up to this guy and like said nice shirt. I know the guy who owns that, and they like gave me a weird look. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But it is like we're super thankful, right? Like this community really embraced us right from the get-go. And we try to be a mirror of like the coolness that happens here in Butte.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think about a lot is how Butte is really, we look backwards a lot, which is great because our history is unbelievable. And the more I learn about it, the more I'm blown away.
It's epic.
It really is. But the one thing that I think that we can do is kind of be an example of honoring that past and looking forward. And, our style that we've developed at 55, our artistic style, is bright and beautiful and simple. And I love the fact that comes from a dirty old mining town.
Yep.
Because we're changing the conversation. And I think that's what needs to happen for our community to move forward. And I think that all the work that you do, all the work that our crew does, changes, kind of nudges that conversation along and shows people that that's okay.
Yeah. And I feel like because you've had the storefront for 7 years.
7 years, wow.
Which is, I know. We had our 7th birthday in November. But I feel like you, by doing what you do and by doing design, by opening a store in Uptown Butte at a time when there were like no stores in Uptown Butte, you've given other people, especially young people, permission to do that. Like whether, which is super cool.
That really like warms my heart, to be quite honest with you. Like
but
it
it's
really
true.
does.
Because people see that and you're not like an old fogey.
Not yet.
Well, not yet. Well, on your way.
Yeah.
Only in the best way. But people see you and Cass and they're like, oh, like they're cool and they're creative and they're doing cool stuff. It's like maybe I can do it too because they've been doing it here for a while. Seems to be going good. And it's really like you've given this community permission to do something new, which I feel like especially here is not that common. No.
Well, along those same lines, like that happened to us as well.
Yeah.
So like I get that. When we opened 7 years ago, Uptown Butte was different. It wasn't as alive as it is now, and we still have a long way to go. But when we were considering opening up a store, we looked at places like Headframe Spirits, and the McKees they had the example of being uptown and having a Butte focus and being successful at it. So shout out to those guys, right? The M&M was rocking and rolling. So shout out to Selena and that crew. Metals was going bananas. So there were examples that we could look at and say, there are successful businesses making it in Uptown Butte. Not too many at that time, but there are, which means it's possible. Which also means that we can do it. And if we can do it, then we're adding to that conversation and we're being an example for others.
Yeah.
Which is why what you say means so much to me, because like that's the goal.
Yeah.
We all want to make Butte the best it can be and realize its potential.
We all love it here.
Yeah. And that's the best part.
We want other people to love it.
And we're not quite there yet. So it's going to take some work and it's going to take some risk and it's going to take some people who love this place to just like give it a hug.
It's way more fun to do the work and reap the rewards instead of just like showing up to a place that's already great, I think.
Well, that's the difference between Butte and a place like Bozeman.
Yeah.
Like Bozeman's great. It's got its services, it's got its stores, it's got the airport,
It's
all
fancy.
of those things. It's got fancy pants. But it's not a community.
No.
In the truest sense of what a community is. And that's what I think makes Butte unique in the world, is that we still hold really tightly to the fact that we are a true community and we'll look out for each other and we'll help each other. And, we're going to do this all together. And that's what really drew me to this place and how I fell in love with it, is because I feel like I'm a part of something here.
Yeah. Oh, I've never lived anywhere that was more like take care of your neighbor and they'll take care of you like it is in Butte.
How did that happen?
I have no idea.
I think it's the history.
I think so. And I think that there's not many cities that have gone, or like just places in general, that have gone through the kind of stuff that the people have gone through here, that's still like people, like generations past. And it wasn't that long ago. Like,
it's
remember,
still fresh. Yeah.
like their grandparents, Ben's great-grandfather worked in the mines. Like that's,
Cass's dad was in the Mountain Con for a while, yeah.
Yeah, like not that many generations ago, people were working here when it was at its peak and then also at its lowest.
Right.
And it totally, the population was dwindling and things were closing and it was just like the people that stayed had to band together to maintain the place that they loved, because without the people, this place would have just gone away.
Yeah. And that's what makes this place special, is like the architecture's beautiful. The landscape is beautiful. Actually, I tell people, you put your back to the pit and like this valley is incredible.
Oh, it's stunning.
Like with the highlands, like, my gosh.
I kind of like the pit. I know, but it's cool. It's cool in a way that it's a terrible mining disaster, but it is so unique. And it's a part of the story.
Yeah.
And it's unlike anything you're going to see anywhere else.
And when the sun is low in the west and it just hits those walls, like those rock
gold.
terraces,
it's
like
so
there's
pretty.
all these like browns and coppers and oranges. And I'm like, there is actual beauty in
There
that.
absolutely is. Absolutely. 100%. Okay. So we're going to wrap this up, but
You're going to give me rapid fire?
yeah, well, we're going to, yeah.
This is
because
hit the
Cass
editing
bought you
floor.
these cards, the Delve deck, Joy Edition. We're going to spark some joy.
All
But
right.
I think this is going to be fun. So we're just going to do a couple of these questions because I think they're silly and I want to get to like, I want to do, people love to know the stuff, but people also love to know the weird stuff. So let's
get weird on some things.
I want to just like pick one of these. Okay, that one we read earlier, so I can't do that. This has to be like totally off the cuff. Ooh, I like this. Okay. Which fictional character in a movie or book made you feel the most seen?
Wow. For some reason, I immediately go to Harry Potter.
No.
I don't know why. It could I have to pick one of the characters, don't I?
Oh yeah, I thought you meant Harry himself. I
think Harry's fine. No. Who doesn't love Luna?
Luna Lovegood.
Who doesn't love Luna?
I think
Speaking of like just being your own person in the world.
Well, and having some healthy delusion.
That's exactly right.
So, you know
All
what?
right.
Luna, she's made you feel the most seen.
I don't know about that, but that's my answer.
What's the most fun you've had in the last year?
Ooh. You know what? I'm gonna go with your alley. alley. No, this is gonna feel like a cop out. But like honestly, we threw that together and there was nothing but joy happening.
I mean, that's true.
You know, and like just for that, you played for like an hour or something.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like super pop up, super random, and it was just like those moments when you feel like just like it's just pure joy. Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
I bet you guys experience that a bit in your shows though.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like
that's the magical.
That's like the goal.
Yeah.
Is to have it always feel like that.
But and then to have that happen in such a weird little like random, like there was literally a full dumpster like 6 feet away from you guys.
I'm like,
like people were just like dancing and and the sun was baking you. Like that was fun.
It was.
You know?
It was a pretty just like nothing. There was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Like in those moments, like nothing was going poorly. We were having a good time. We were shoved onto the steps. And everybody was just having a good time. Those are.
I mean, 2023 was kind of a challenge, I think.
Yeah.
I'm looking back. Well, speaking of, this is going to come out January 4th, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you into New Year's resolutions? Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. I mean, I think the last serious resolution I set was in 8th grade. I vowed to not ever drink Mountain Dew again because I had a real problem. and that's held steady. So maybe I should make another resolution. But what about you? You got any?
I'm working on a manuscript right now for a novel.
Oh.
So I'm getting towards the end of that. Words have been bubbling up out of me for a while now. And so I started writing my book this year. So I think this is one year. I'm not really typically into resolutions, but this is one year where I feel like there's a couple that are coming out of me where I want to get this book or at least this manuscript done and probably in the editing phase.
Yeah.
Because I think there's something there.
I mean, I do.
We're exploring a lot of like weird childhood, weird traumas that like
you know what?
my weird
You're healing your inner
insecurities.
child.
So
You're healing.
It's just like a weird diary is what it is.
You're doing the work.
That's
good.
what we're doing.
We're doing the work. We're doing the work.
But yeah, I'd like to get that to a place where it's kind of finished. There's a handful of goals as far as the business that I think I want to work on. You know, we've got some challenges there's always challenges with a business.
Yeah.
But there's some specific things that I kind of want to figure out there.
Yeah. Well, new year, same us. More stuff.
Much mo better.
Much mo better. All right, we're going to close this out. And I just pulled this card out of here, but I need to know because I actually don't, you can't say musicals, any musical. You can't, this has to be separate from Broadway and musicals.
You're going to make me, there's a lot of rules right now.
Well, because we already know about that.
Okay.
But what's your all-time favorite band or music artist?
Ooh, all
and like
time?
why? Yeah, and like why?
See, it's tricky because I just like kind of bob around so much. Like right now I'm into Counting Crows. We went and saw them this last summer at the Kettle House.
Oh.
Put on a great show. But I feel like that's been most of my mood. You know, like they're a minor chord band. Right? Generally.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like, but I just love like his storytelling through his songs. And so I've been really into Counting Crows lately.
Huh.
No, I mean, as far as music goes, I listen to just about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know how much Taylor Swift is played at the store.
We're all Swifties now, whether we like it or not.
But yeah, Katie, thanks for your time. This time till next time.
And I feel like people, they know us both now.
Yeah, we can move on.
We can move on. They've gotten to know us. They know why we're super unqualified to be doing this, but at least we're fun.
And I'm excited to get some other people in here and to start telling, like the whole idea of the podcast is just to continue to tell the stories of town, the stories of people doing awesome things here.
Yeah.
And elsewhere, wherever they happen to be. But, you know, we're going to have this Butte focus because this is where our people are right now.
Yeah.
And there's so much good happening here that we need to talk about.
I know. I can't wait to just nosedive into other people's business.
So we're going to get to do that soon.
I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Yes.
And of all the places, John Wick. calls Butte home.
Butte is home.
Butte's home.
All right.
of all the